Hey guys, we got Adam, Matthew Look, Cam McCown, and Roman Martin. Good evening. Sorry about the late notice. That was scheduled an hour or so ago as normal, and to be honest, for some reason it went through up as unlisted, and Adam pointed it out. So thanks heaps. I've only really been home from work about an hour. Sort of had enough. Don't know if there's much really to see or much progress. Hey John. Mark Osborne, hi. This last weekend I've been trying to get these patterns finished. I'm sort of struggling with the will to live on these. No, not so much, but there's a lot more of them than I expected. Pretty big job. And we're getting there with them. There's a cylinder head. You can work out what that is. People have got small minds. But the valves go in here. And spark plug or ignition tube goes in there. Hey, Machine NZ. Dale. Thanks for the awesome video last week. There's the scraper grinder video. There's a little post goes in here for the chimney for the hot tube, and exhaust and intake come out here, and there's a tap in here and another port in here, I think, and the screw in here for the rocker arm or the tappet rod there. So that's one project we've done. The paint's lifted there for some reason. I'm going to have to sand that back and start again. These are finished. Coat of oil-based undercoat on this side to keep some of the moisture out. They might get another one or they might not. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, with nothing else to do. That's where we go wrong. We've got too much spare time, Cam. What I have done on these... Morning, Gary. Is put thread inserts in here, and the right is sort of in the balance point, so that you can lift them out of the sand with the pattern lifter. So looking at this, crazy amount of work in these, and it's a crazy amount still to go. But this one goes on here like this, hopefully, eventually. You've probably all seen this. This is a mock-up of the core, and I've still got to make a core box that sort of matches this. This sort of goes, this core box, or this core goes in here like this, probably. Other thing I've done is this one. You can probably all see what that's going to be. just by looking at it. Oh, that's where you hang out nowadays, Gary. I have to go and have a look. That's a piston core, yep. It still needs a fair bit of work. It needs a lot of cleanup. I thought about that, and if I had been able to do that, Raymond, and I thought pretty hard about it, but if I'd been able to do that, I would be casting this out aluminium rather than cast iron and doing it locally and saving myself quite a lot of money and quite a lot of time. But I don't think that's something that's going to happen, so we're going to live with that. So that's come together all right. That's pine. There's just undercoat on it, but there's the recesses or the shape of the gudgeons in there. This was bored all the way through and then bored here, and they're drilled on each side for wooden pins to get them in the right spot. And then this is cut with a bit of an angle for some draft, and they've just been covered up on the ends. So that hopefully gives us a space that they'll lift out of. This taper here is for the piston pattern with the same shape. So we're going to have is a depression. You've got to think of this backwards, a depression in this shape, that this core, when this is full, will sit down inside and centralize and all those sort of things. So that's happening. Hey, Stefan. So that's what I've been messing around on. Very good book if you're making pistons. Pretty no nonsense. Shows a lot of stuff, and it's a pretty good casting book too. But enjoyed reading this again. Still hoping that I can get piston rings off the shelf, but I think we're going to need all the help we can. Hey JB, we're going to need all the help we can to get compression on this engine, so that might be a good thing to do. So that's what I did on the weekend, is finish this pattern, or sort of finish it. The paint's orange peeled a bit, and I'm going to have to do something about that. And make this core box. There's still a piston to be made for this. People are asking how many more are left to do. Piston to be made for this, or a pattern for the piston, and a core box to match this sort of. So that's pretty straightforward when you break it down, but I want to take this away up to the foundry, mold it, and just try this in a hole and see how much clearance and stuff's around it. See where it's going to work. Raymond too, the whole wet seal thing is, or the wet sleeve thing is, it adds some other complications, but most of the problem is that there just isn't enough meat in here, I don't think, to put a sleeve in this part of the pattern. So without noticeably changing the design, I'm going to try and stay away from that. What else? I 3D printed a funnel, because I never really had a funnel for filling up these little bottles with marking out blue. Come out pretty good. It's sort of a love-hate relationship with 3D printers. They work sometimes. Yeah, 3D printing is the devil. Yeah, it's a slippery slope. It's downhill from here. What else? Hatched a dinosaur egg. Forgot all about it. But we do have a pink dinosaur. I think it's a Stegosaurus. So that happened. That sounds like a challenge, JB. So that's what I've done. Some boxes come today from China. Banggood.com. Bought them. Could have probably got them for nothing, but try not to do that too much. These are for the other two sets of engraving letters. So my cutters haven't turned up, but my boxes did turn up. So I will be able to go through and sort the rest of them out and have them where I can find them. Oh, there's another thing that came. I don't know if everyone's seen this. Cam was asking about this. Yeah, thanks, Carrie. I've made piston rings before for an old engine. We restored an old outboard motor once and made piston rings for it, I think. And they worked, but they work a lot better on a bigger engine where there's a little bit more tolerance for running in. The trouble is, on a piston this big, new surface finish and everything isn't quite right, and they run in, you've got this much gap instead of this much gap, whereas on a bigger piston the same comes off the outside, you've only increased the gap a little bit. So they are a little bit challenging. I've thought about that. This come from Martin Model. He cut me a deal on 2 of them, so if anyone wants an extra set of castings for this, I've got a spare flywheel. There was a couple of other flywheels there. JB, I think, was interested in some or in one. Send me a message, JB, if you still are. Otherwise, it can go in the parts drawer. I'll make something one day for it. But there's a bit of weight in this. And this, when I start looking at this engine's not going to be a real lightweight. It's kind of bulky. Thanks, JB. Yeah, pretty solid little engine. The other pattern I've got is this one, which is the crank. And that goes somewhere like in there, I think. Here's the theory. Um, 32mm piston rings seem to be fairly common in small engines, so whether we just make the thing 32mm and buy 32mm piston rings, that might be an easy way out, or we could make it 1.25" and try and make piston rings. I'm not sure about that yet. There's time. The Z-gap piston rings would be really nice, but yeah, I'm not sure about cutting the ends. I guess there's a way to do it. What else really has happened? I've got a mess. I've got sawdust everywhere and it needs to be vacuumed up. Don't know if there's a whole lot of progress really. I'm still working away, so I'm traveling a couple of hours, 3 hours, 4 hours every day, something like that. I've only just come home and I left this morning at about 6 a.m-ish. – 6 a.m-ish. . 6 a.m-ish. . So, same tomorrow. 6 a.m. . 6 a.m.. . 6 a.m. 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 Anyway, talked with Stans in Costi today about a heat treat oven. That's something we've got underway, so as soon as I can get him a little bit more money for that, I'll be able to take delivery. I think it's not probably that far away. Excited about that. It is, Cam. It's pretty solid. It's a lot more solid than it needs to be. I needed a fairly wide curved spoke flywheel, but it doesn't need to be anywhere near this diameter, so it really wants 3/8 of an inch off each side, which will give us more the profile we want. It should look really good on it, I think. It's not got a really huge boss in the center of it, but we should be able to get a crankshaft which is about 11 millimeters and a key in that without too many problems. I think it should be all right. That's something else to think about. So all I've really done is persevered with these patterns over the last week. It's kind of a pretty huge job, and we're getting through them, but they're a crazy amount of work, and I'm sort of dreading what the postage is going to cost to bring them back from America, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. It's, yeah, probably still the best option. That's the other casting we've got done, and that's the base pattern. So give you some idea, it's not going to be a real small engine. But it might just all come together and work. I'm hoping it will. I think this is about 20. I think it wants to be 25 millimeters to be usable. Casting curved spoke flywheels is probably something that I don't ever want to have to tackle. It's a bit of a challenge. Shrinkage and cracked spokes and things are probably a real thing, I think. So, and probably things like sort of sand you use and all sorts of things will come into whether that actually is going to work or not. So that's why I bought this one. It seemed like a sensible sort of an option. That's an 11 millimeter drill. So put that in there and put a key in it. It won't have to be a very big key. I think there's going to be plenty of meat in there. And it's actually about the same size as the boss here, so it's going to look like it's meant to be. I'm going to ignore that comment, Adam. If this actually runs, it'll be a miracle, so we're good with that. Matthew, yes, I think so. I think the curved spoke was designed to stop so that the outside of the flywheel moves as it cools rather than shrinks and expands is sort of the idea. I'm not sure if that's really something that works, but I think that's why curved spoke flywheels are a thing. But seriously, for $50, they weren't even that expensive. They're probably $50 with postage for this flywheel, so you wouldn't even mess about making a pattern and casting one. It's just not one of those things that's sensible. Anyway, I reckon I'm about going to call it a night. Who's doing cool things on their channel? Matthew, look, check out Look Creations. He's doing some hand scraping. Probably some blacksmithing in the near future, I think, if you really ask him nicely. A lot of stunt scraping. It's interesting channel, always is. He's a nice guy. JB's fixing dishwashers. Interesting, but yep. Cam's building a slotting attachment for his lathe, which is kind of serious engineering. Stefan's probably messing with his 3D printer. I don't think he's doing much else. I shouldn't say that. He's working for a living and he's always got cool content on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. Build something cool. He's starting to make some videos again after the big move. Dale, it's awesome to see you grind a video. Really enjoy the work you put into getting them right. There's Tinker. Hey, Tinker. Oh my gosh, JB, I hope you got that sorted. I hope you haven't hope you've got to some resolution with your freight back charge. Yeah, you've just made it, Tinker. Gosh, don't work yourself into the ground. You must. Are you still in Georgia, Dale, or have you back in California again? I noticed you were in Georgia this morning, were you? Anyway, I'm running out of things to talk about. I've ready for bed nearly. There's still, I don't know if I'm not even going to get coat of paint. All this needs a sand back before it gets another coat of paint, and it's not going to happen tonight. Probably just going to go to bed. I was going to have some sand and make some sand cores before now, but that hasn't happened either. So, oh yeah, Fabtex in Georgia, of course. Looks like some really cool things to see there. Take care, Matt. Take care, everyone, and more soon. Be kind to each other.